Okay, today is the day, you guys. Native Instruments has announced and released Maschine 3. This is the first whole number update to Maschine since September 2013, making it over 11 years now since we've received a whole number update. This is an extraordinarily big deal and a long time waiting. This is the latest software version of the iconic Groovebox style platform for beat making and sampling. And along with this announcement comes some limited time hardware discounts to be aware of. But Maschine 3 software introduces stem separation, MIDI editing upgrades, per scene tempo adjustments, basic Kontrol S-Series MK3 integration, and a totally new Maschine Central library that comes packed with fresh sounds, rhythms, and presets. So as you know, Maschine software works best with Maschine hardware, but now with these MIDI editing updates, it also shines in standalone, making it really an accessible and affordable entry point for in-the-box beat making, which I think is super cool. And I want to get into all of that in this video. Okay, so the first thing I want to get out of the way is pricing. Now you would think for a whole number update, this thing probably is going to cost $50, $69. You know, the usual price points that Native Instruments chooses, but no, it's actually only $29 to upgrade to Maschine 3, which I think is fantastic. And it really is a great service to a big portion of the Native Instruments community that's been waiting for this update for such a long time. So it's just $29 to upgrade to Maschine 3 if you just want to get it by itself, or you can get it bundled with the new Maschine Central library that gives you over 144 multi-sampled contact instruments and over 700 drums. A pretty robust library, which replaces Maschine 2's old factory library. This is a brand new Maschine sound library. You can get both of those, Maschine 3 and the new Maschine Central library, for $69 as an upgrade from Maschine 2. Which I really think is a pretty great deal, especially when you consider that most Maschine expansions cost $49 in themselves. Getting both the new Maschine 3 and this new Maschine Central library for $69 really is quite on target in my opinion. Considering all the sounds and kits that you get with the new Maschine Central library and these new updates, I think bundling them both together for this price point is a steal. And I think it might just be an introductory offer, I'm not sure, because I think it goes up to $99 for both Maschine 3 and the new Maschine Central library after some kind of introductory period. I'm not completely sure, but as I know of right now, you can get both for $69. Now, if you wanted to pay for them separately for whatever reason, you can get Maschine 3 for $29 as an upgrade now from Maschine 2. And then later on, if you want to get the Maschine Central sound library, you can get that for $49 MSRP. Okay, so that's the pricing. Let's move on to actually what is inside of Maschine 3's update. Okay, so the first big thing is stem separation for the very first time inside of Maschine. In Maschine 3, you can now split any audio file into vocals, bass, drums, and other instruments powered by iZotope's RX technology. We first saw this come in the Traktor 4 Pro update, and now it's inside of Maschine 3, which is super cool. Now, in terms of the quality of it, I want to go ahead and test that out right now because to be honest with you, with Traktor 4 Pro, I like that it was added to it, but in my experience, the quality of stem separation really has a lot to do with the source material, and sometimes you get really mixed results with artifacting, and it just doesn't always sound the best. But I thought it would be great to actually test out the stem separation in this video itself. And what I thought I'd do is go ahead and test it out using some of these new Maschine Central expansion demo projects and actually export out the final master and see what it sounds like in comparison when we use the new stem separation feature. So I'm going to go to the demo project for Maschine Central expansion, and it's actually this one on the far left here. And let's just load up some of these that I favorited here. So let's just go and load up this first one, and I'm just going to discard this, and let's see what this sounds like. Okay, that sounds pretty cool. I like that demo project, but I'm going to go and export this out, and then we'll bring it back into Maschine and see how it does with this new stem separation feature. So I'm going to go ahead and export it to my music folder here. I'm just going to go and find it. And I think a sample rate of 44K and a bit depth of 24 is pretty decent. So I'm going to go ahead and just export this out to that chosen folder. Okay, now that it's exported, I'm going to go ahead and create a new project here, discard this one, pull up my Finder folder here, and let's just drag this project directly into the timeline right on the first group. Okay, and then to get to the stem separation feature, you just need to press S on your keyboard or hit this little icon right here. So if I just press S, we're gonna go straight into sampling. And then the next thing you need to do after that is click on Edit and go into the Edit mode. And you'll see down here we have this option for stems. Now if I go ahead and click this once, it's gonna start using the RX technology from iZotope to start separating those stems. Okay, so it separated the stems, and in my experience, it took a few minutes, actually quite a lot longer than I was expecting. And in my experience with Traktor 4 Pro, I believe it was quicker if I remember correctly. But this time inside of Maschine 3, yeah, it wasn't the fastest. I will be completely honest about that. So let's go ahead and just drag out this clip here for all of these. And it looks like it placed each individual stem on its own sound within a group. All right, so let's go ahead and play the first one and just solo it here. Okay, did a pretty good job of separating out just the drums, isolating that. Let's go ahead and solo the bass out and see what it did with that, see how it sounds. Okay, not bad. I'm actually impressed with that. Let's go on to the other category. So we got the strings, some flutes. Wow, I'm actually pretty impressed. All right, let's hear what the vocals sound like now. See how it isolated that. Okay. Wow, that's not bad. I'm actually pretty impressed with the results for this source material at least. Now, I've tried this with some of my other tracks that I've made myself, and it wasn't the best, but because this is a more simple project where each instrument has its own defined space within the frequency spectrum, I believe it did a really good job on this track. The only downside I experienced was the actual stem separation wait time, which in my case, it honestly took about 4 to 5 minutes for it to separate out the stems for each of these categories. So it's by no means a fast process. It does take some time, but depending on your source material, you can get some really good results. So that's stem separation in Maschine 3. Let's move on to the new MIDI editing upgrades. Okay, so now in Maschine 3, we get new MIDI editing tools, including split, join, mute MIDI notes, new keyboard shortcuts, the ability to use our computer keyboard to play in notes, as well as audible MIDI note previews. Okay, so to demonstrate this, I'm gonna go ahead and load up a Maschine Central expansion kit here, and there's this one really cool one that has a really glitchy style to it. I love that kit. I'm gonna go ahead and load it up, and let's take a look at these new MIDI editing tools. I'm just gonna give myself some more space inside of the MIDI editing window here. Now, just like I said, we get new MIDI editing tools, and you can access them by right-clicking, and you can see all the new ones that they've added. So the top two were ones that were already available in Maschine 2, select and draw. But now we also have split, join, and mute. And these all have their own individual keyboard shortcuts as well. Split's going to be the letter X on your keyboard, join's going to be the letter Y, and the mute tool is going to be the letter Z. So to split a note, you just select the tool, and then depending on whatever your grid setting is, you can go ahead and split wherever you like and split your MIDI notes up. And you can also go down here and change your grid settings to be whatever you want. So if you want a finer resolution, you can go ahead and split to your heart's content. As fine as you want to split your MIDI notes. Now to join these MIDI notes, all you have to press is Y on your keyboard, which automatically takes you to the join tool, and then you click and drag over a selection and it automatically will join those notes. And the final addition to the new MIDI editing tools is the mute tool, and you can access this by Z on your keyboard. It turns into a little X, and then you can go ahead and click whatever note you want and mute those MIDI notes. These are going to be really useful for fast editing. Now it's worth mentioning too that you can actually preview any MIDI note inside the MIDI editing window just by clicking on it. Super useful for a fast workflow when you're placing things on the grid. And then you can always go back to the pencil tool by the letter E on your keyboard and then add new notes wherever you want. And then the last thing for the MIDI editing updates, you can actually use your computer keyboard to play in notes inside of Maschine. So if you either go to edit and computer keyboard or press Command K on your keyboard, you can use your computer's keyboard to play in notes directly into Maschine now. So I'm just going to go and add a different instrument, and we'll check out some of these instruments inside of the Maschine Central expansion. And you'll notice that inside of this brand new expansion, there's some new sounds from newly released plugins. So if you saw the Duotines bundle that Native Instruments released around the beginning of the year, we have a Diamond Basic Electric Keys preset in here that we can play in. Just go and load it up to this group. And then with Command key on my keyboard, I can play that directly in. And it's just like any other program where the Z and the X will change your octaves. So really useful if you're not near your Maschine controller or your complete control keyboard. You can use your keyboard now to play in stuff on the fly. Now, the one thing I noticed with this is that you can't actually play drum pieces. If I go back to this drum kit here, it only plays the selected sound in a note-wise fashion with different pitches. But you can't play the individual drum kit pieces back. So maybe that's something that can change in the future with some other control to switch between playing keyboard mode and pad mode. But as of right now, you can only play in keyboard mode with this function. Okay, so that's it for MIDI editing updates. Let's move on to bounce and place. Okay, I'm gonna go back into Maschine Central expansion and let's take a look at some more of these kits. I really like that Denim Hearts kit. I'm gonna load that into my first group here. And I just wanna isolate some of the melodic material. Maybe this poly sound here. Let's see what it sounds like. Really saturated polysynth sound. If you can turn off the saturator and see what it sounds like without it. Just a little less saturated. What does the bass sound like? Okay, that sounds pretty cool. Let's go ahead and bounce this in place. So this is a new feature inside of Maschine 3 that helps you save on CPU power when you have already found the sound you like, you've played into performance, and you really don't need it in MIDI form anymore. You can bounce any of these sounds out to audio, which is really useful and something that Maschine users have been asking for a long time. So how you do it is you just right click the sound and then you click bounce. And then it just lets you know you're about to convert the patterns in this sound slot into audio loops. This removes all MIDI events from both patterns and clips and replaces your existing plugin chain with the audio plugin. And then of course you can choose don't allow, allow once, or allow always. I'm gonna go ahead and just click allow always for me. And then it gets started with bouncing that right away. And this is much more quick than some separation, obviously, which is good. And then when we play it back, we get the audio for that right there. So bounce in place is now inside Maschine 3. Now you can take this audio in the audio plugin and obviously go to sampling mode and do whatever you want with it. So just press S on your keyboard, it goes directly into sampling mode, and then you can go in and edit things as you would normally by truncating, normalizing, reversing, fade in, fade out, and all the other options that you get with sampling inside of Maschine. The bounce and place feature really is just to help you render out sound, saving CPU power and opening up new creative possibilities while working inside of Maschine 3. Okay, the next thing added to Maschine 3 is per scene tempo adjustments, which is another highly requested feature from a lot of Maschine users. And I'll go ahead and show you how it works right now. So let's check out some of these other kits inside the Central expansion. All right, let's use this Ghost Tech kit here. I'm gonna load it into my group and we can see that this is the perfect kit to choose because we have mixed tempos existing within our patterns already. So I'm going to go and adjust the BPM to be 172 for this first scene. And then I'm going to go to the plus button, create a new scene, and select the second pattern right here. And how this works now, if you want per scene tempo adjustment, you just right click the scene, click scene tempo, and then you can adjust it up here. So we're going to make this 140 BPM, enter. And now we have per scene tempos. So clicking on scene 1, it changes the BPM to 172. And then when we go back to scene 2, we're at a solid 140 BPM. And if you're curious what that sounds like, we'll start with the 140 BPM. And then scene 1. Now, this is a really useful feature for creating variance in your tracks. So maybe you want to start out your intro into your verse at a slower tempo or a slower speed, and then into your drop or B section, you can really ramp up the tempo to be whatever you want. It just creates more dynamic fluctuation in your tracks, giving it a more dynamic and lively feel when you're making your own songs inside of Maschine. So always just remember, you just got to right click the scene, click scene tempo, and then you can change it to be whatever you want, and it's baked into that scene. And you can do this as many times as you want. So if you want to create scene 3, scene 4, and have different tempos for each and every scene, you can do that. It's a great way to test out different BPMs for your different scenes and see what you really want to keep riding with throughout the rest of your project. Okay, so the last few things that come with the Maschine 3 update, there's now support for compressed file formats. Users can now import MP3, MP4, FLAC, and OGG files. There's basic integration with Kontrol S-Series MK3, including transport controls and on-keyboard display of Maschine modules and NKS mapping. And a big one for me is this new selectable feature inside of the Ableton Link protocol options here. We've always had Ableton Link available inside of Maschine, and you can just click here and enable it. But now we have start, stop, sync. You can select it and it will automatically link up with any other digital audio workstation that you have Ableton Link enabled with. And not only that, but it will sync your start and stop between both Maschine and your other DAW of choice simultaneously. So that means you can build everything inside of Maschine as far as your drum sounds go, melodic content, harmonic content. And then if you feel more comfortable recording vocals in, say, like Logic Pro or Ableton Live, you can do all the audio inside those programs because they have a more robust tool set for editing audio inside those programs, but then simultaneously be building out your drum parts, bass lines, chords, and everything else inside Maschine. So you get the best of both worlds. You get the fast workflow of Maschine while simultaneously recording your vocals inside of Logic Pro, which I love. That is a huge deal, especially while we still wait on Native Instruments to figure out whether or not they're ever going to add tools for audio editing inside Maschine with utilizing a linear workflow instead of just a sample-based process. Anyways, guys, that's pretty much it for this video. That's the main features that are now available with Maschine 3. And I know Native Instruments is working on other things that are still to come, but these are the first offerings Native Instruments is bringing forward. All right, guys, I'll leave a link in the description below if you want to check out the landing pages for any of this stuff. I highly recommend taking a look at it if you're a dedicated Maschine user, which I know there's a lot of you out there. I see the comments all the time on Reddit, on YouTube, in Facebook groups. So shout out to you guys for being so patient while Native Instruments has finally come out with this whole number update. It's such a big deal, and I'm so excited for what's to come in the future. All right, guys, I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.